All right, this is pre-algebra lesson 9.6, circles. Let me give you the very quick rundown again, right? So here is our circle. Some things you need to know about a circle. A chord is any line segment that goes from one side of the circle to another side. That's a chord, 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 right? All those are chords. Goes from any side to the other side. Can be going from here to here, whatever. Okay, those are chords, right? Chords. This right here, they use math terms here. The center of the circle is the point that is equidistant from all points of the circle. Equidistant, which means that this right here is equal in distance to that point, to that point, to that point, to that point. Does that make sense? It's equidistant from all the other points on the circle. The very center, that's called the center. Make sense? Okay. A special chord is a chord that goes through the center of the circle, and that chord is called the diameter. From the center to the edge, right? From the center to the edge anywhere, that's called the radius. And that is exactly, compare that to the diameter again.
The half.
It's exactly half the diameter. Radius is 1/2 the diameter. Right? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You guys have that down. Okay, I asked you to do number 1 and 3 for me. The formula for finding the circumference of a circle is real simple. So if here's my circle, and I want to know how much string it would take to go all the way around the circle once, right? What's the distance? You need to know the diameter of the circle, right? You need to know the diameter, and you need to know what pi is, because the formula is the circumference equals diameter times pi. What is the diameter here? Well, let's say that this time it was 12 inches, a 1 foot across circle. If it's 12 inches, then you simply go the circumference equals 12 inches times pi. What is pi, by the way? It is 3. Here's the deal. That is very estimated, right? Pi is a irrational number. It goes forever. There is no exact number. So you usually estimate it to be 3.14. When you get higher, you might make it be 3.141. But I mean, there are people have memorized this out into the hundreds of decimal places. It doesn't matter. We just want to know estimated, what it is. So what is 12 times 3.14? Who got that? Somebody type that in your calculator. What is 12 times 3.14?
It's 37.68.
37.68. And you can look at this and go 12 times 3 is 36. Is 37.68 roughly? Yeah, 36. Okay, so 37.68. If you put that down on your paper, I mark it wrong. I asked you for the circumference. What is the answer? 37.68 inches. If you just give me 37.68, I will mark it wrong. No. I'm telling you that if you gave me that for this sample problem that I just had you do, you don't label it, I mark it wrong. Okay, so I asked you guys to do number 1, which was if there was a circle with a diameter of 100 inches, and so the circumference equals 100 times 3.14. That's kind of an easy one because it's times 100. What do? Move the decimal. Ends up being the circumference equals 314 inches. Does that make sense? Now, why isn't it squared? Why is this here not squared?
Because that is...
What does squared mean? What's the difference between inches and squared inches? What's the difference? What is 1 inch and what is a squared inch? You guys don't know the difference between 1 inch and a squared inch? What's the difference? 1 inch is a distance of 1 inch, right? I mean, like it's a distance. It's this big, right? This is an inch. It's this far, right? A squared inch is a square that is 1 inch on each side. You guys didn't know that? Yeah, you had to have been. You cannot possibly be in 7th grade and not know that. It's true. Anyway, it wasn't squared because we're talking about a distance around, right? The circumference is a distance. It's how far something is. It's a string. It's a distance. If I'm ever talking about the area, which is next chapter, I'm saying how many of these square inches are there inside of the circle, right? And so that's when the answer is going to be something squared. Anyway, number 3 is a circle with a 6.3 centimeters diameter. So then you'd go circumference equals 6.3 times 3.14. And what'd you guys come up with?
19.792.
C equals 19 point what?
792.
792. If I asked you to round to the nearest tenth, then you'd go 17 or 19.8. If I said round to the nearest hundredth, it would be 19.79, right? It just depends on what I'm asking for. If I said round to the nearest whole, it would be
No, 20.
20, right? Okay, just depends. Okay, here's this. This is always a tricky one. Are you paying attention here? This is a tricky one. If I asked you to give me that circle's awful, but I'm just drawing it. If I said this, and I want to know the circumference, what a lot of people do is they go, oh, okay, so then it would be 4 times 3.14. A lot of people would do that. Why is that wrong? Tell me why this is wrong, Lauren.
Because it's not the diameter.
It's not the diameter, right? It's not the diameter. This is the radius. What is the diameter then? If the radius is 4, what's the diameter? 8, right? Does that make sense? I mean, then that means that the whole diameter is 8 inches. So it would be 8 times 3.14. Just don't get that mixed up. Don't get so stuck on, there's the numbers. I mean, you got to think it's the diameter times pi. It would be doubled if they just gave you the radius. Okay. All right. Here's something else. Here's another type of question that you're going to get, and that is this. If you're going to draw a pie graph, you ever seen a pie graph like where somebody says, okay, here is, how much time you spend in the day, and, you go from here to here. This is school, and from here to here is sleep, and here is doing your homework, and here is playing the Xbox, and here is eating. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? What I'm saying? Like they're showing this is the whole day, and this is the miscellaneous or whatever. Do you recognize a pie graph here? Do you recognize pie graphs? Okay, awesome. If I was to ask you to be accurate in drawing a pie graph on something, here's what you do. If I want you to be accurate, here's the deal. And let's talk. Let's just do this practically before we actually get into the deal. If I said that there were that 25% of the time you are sleeping, or last night you slept, SLE, 25% you slept. How would you do that up here? What is the deal? How much of this am I doing? Would this be accurate? Is that 25%? No. Is this 25%? So then tell me exactly, what would it look like? It would be a fourth of it, right? I mean, it would be right down here. You got to find the center, and it would be 1/4. You know this because you know that 25% is 1/4, right? What if, here is exactly how you do it. Here's exactly how you do it. What you would do is this. You got to draw your center here, and you go, okay, 25% is 25 over 100, right? And how many degrees are there in a circle? How many total degrees are there in a circle? There's 360, right? So if I want to know how many degrees I should be making this, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go 25%, which is 25 over 100, equals how much of 360 degrees? How many of 360 degrees? Does that make sense? So then look, I need you to look at this. I would write this down right now. This is 25, so you go 25% equals, and this is how you would do it. You'd say 25 over 100 equals how much, or x over 360. Okay, so then how do you do this? What do I do with this? How do I solve this? Do you remember? There's lots of ways. not cross cancel. You can cross multiply, right? You just cross multiply and you go, okay, 100 question mark equals, what is 25 times 360? Write it down. Type it in for me. What's 25 times 360? No, what is 25 times 360?
9,000.
9,000. Right? Does that make sense? So then now what do I do to finish solving this? I need to get the question mark by himself. Divide by 100, divide by 100. The question mark equals 90 degrees. Do you all know what 90 degrees is a right angle, which makes a perfect 1/4? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. So then, what if I said this? What if on that same deal, I said that 20% of the time you were doing your, you were playing baseball. If 20% of the time you were playing baseball, and I need to know how many degrees this needs to be, right? How many degrees? Well, what do I do then? What's the formula again? What do we do? We write down 20 over 100 equals question mark over 360. And you solve it. Cross multiply. 100 question mark equals 7,200 divided by 100 divided by 100. Question mark equals 72. 72 degrees. So remember, how much is 90 degrees? What does 90 degrees look like?
Right angle.
It's a right angle, right? So is it going to be that big?
No,
It's not. It's less than that because it's 72. So if we're just up here drawing, we would do something like that.
That's 72.
Does that make sense? If this is 90, then it's going to be less than that. So you're just going to, I'm not making you do it perfect. It's just going to be in the neighborhood. Does that make sense? But for the most part, your homework, you know what they want? They want to know this, 72 degrees. Does that make sense? You guys try one. Yes, Gigi?
So, are they going to have us draw it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, let me see. That you would draw. Finally, nope, they just weren't going to have you give me the actual answer. I'm just showing you those things so you can see it and understand what's going on. Okay, let me give you one. Let's say this. Let's say that it's 40% of the time. How would you draw, how many degrees would 40% be on your pie graph? How many degrees would 40% be? Okay, that's your question. Try it. So you're looking, here's the deal. So I'm asking you how many degrees would this angle be inside of here if it's 40%? Okay, so listen. In your head, you should already kind of have an estimate here. How much is 50%? What would it look like if it was 50%?
Right down the middle.
It would be half, right? It would be half. So it's going to look something like this, right? So how many degrees is this? Is half?
180.
Right? It's 180. So then ours is going to be a little less than 180. Does that make sense? I mean, that's what your answer should be. So we're going to go 40%, which is 40 over 100 equals question mark over 360. Because we want to know how many degrees is it. And degrees are written it's out of 360. Right? So, write down the equal sign, cross multiply. What's 40 times 360? 14,400. Okay, equals 100 question mark. Divide by 100, divide by 100, comes out to the question mark equals 144. So the answer is 144 degrees. And that would look, if this is 180, 144 would be something like that. Does that make sense? Did you all get 144 degrees? Okay, I think you guys are going to be fine. Let me give you your homework. Yes?
Tomorrow's lesson, do you need my protractor?
I have them if I'm going to have you do that. Today is, what's the date? 22, 3, 4, 5. Yes, okay. Right, we are page 489, 1 through 20 even.